What does Brian do?
Who's Brian? I forgot his name.
He's an independent communications consultant.
Independent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's code for unemployed.
Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm here with my right hand, Bex Camerata. How are you, Bex?
I'm good. How are you?
How excited are we for today's episode?
Very excited about this one.
Our movie this week is Father of the Bride. This was really like Steve Martin at his height.
Yes.
When he was like the star of Parenthood. He was the star of a movie called Roxanne, which I was like deeply obsessed with. He was in a movie like every year, or twice a year at this point in his career. And I would say this was just another one where he just like nailed it. It was so fun to rewatch last night. So we're going to be talking to Charles Shire, who is the writer and director. And I cannot wait to get going. The esteemed Charles Shire, I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. We could have chosen many of your films, but we chose Father of the Bride.
Sure.
And maybe we'll do another one another time. But we got to start with one of the greats, although you have many. And I think before anything, Charles, we have to talk about our mutual love for your daughter, Hallie. I will just tell you that working with her on this film, Goodrich, has been one of the great creative partnerships of my career. And
that's great. Yeah.
I just want you to know that you've raised a good one, and you should be very proud. She's such a talent.
She's a smart cookie.
So I've done a little homework. I've done a little research so I can sort of like follow you along the way. But I want you to tell me your first memory of Father of the Bride, which is a remake coming to you, and how you decided to come on board and make it, one of the great legacy films that it is.
I don't know about that.
I truly believe that. But you go. You tell me.
I wasn't really aware of the original Father of the Bride. Nancy was.
Nancy Meyers, your former wife, partner.
She was, yeah. I wasn't really aware of it. And we got a phone call that Steve Martin was interested in remaking this movie. We love Steve Martin. And they said there was already a script, but he wasn't totally happy with it. So he wanted to get it rewritten. And he had, I think, there were three people or three teams that he was thinking of. It was me and Nance. I don't want to say the other people.
Okay.
And so they said, would we go to New York and meet with Steve and talk to him about it?
And you'd never met him before, Charles?
I don't think I had ever met him before, no. We'd admired him, obviously. But, for some reason, and I really don't, I think it was kind of a rush thing. He wanted to come to New York right away or something. And I don't know how this happened, and I don't think Nance had either. I hadn't read the script, but we got on the plane to New York, and, after we took off, I read like 20 pages and wanted to jump out of the airplane. I was going, holy shit, man, this is not going to be good. We're on the plane already to go to meet Steve, right? And we don't know what to say, and it's,
why did you hate it? Why did you not respond to that?
I just thought it had no elegance. And I think I had watched the Spencer Tracy movie. It wasn't really a comedy. And Steve wanted to, but I didn't like the script at all. And Nance didn't either. And we're on the fucking plane to go see Steve. And we don't know what we're going to say, but we said, well, we'll just wing it. And we got there, and I think we were fairly straight about it, that we didn't love the script, but we got along really well with him. Really got along well with him, and we laughed a lot. We had dinner.
Was he receptive to the fact that you didn't like the script that he had been developing?
Yeah, I think we took the approach that it wasn't good enough for him.
Okay, smart.
And he's an odd guy, Steve. He's the opposite of the wild and crazy guy. He's very low key. And basically, we're saying we can make it better and more real, and trying to emphasize the father-daughter aspect of the movie more. We added whole basketball stuff. There were just a lot of things we really rewrote that script. Drastically. And the Marty Short character evolved.
Did you write that with Martin Short in mind?
Yes.
Oh my God, genius.
I didn't really know Marty, his work that much, but Steve was very good friends with him. And we met with Marty, and he just locked into that character. That was just serendipity.
Where did that come from? Like, did he already know what he was going to do, or were you guys sort of pitching him?
That he was hard to understand. I don't even know if that was Adolphe Menjou, I think, played the part in the original movie. I think he was hard to understand, but we created this whole language with Marty, that he was going to do, Manu and stuff like that. And he was, at times, Nancy and I just were cracking up off camera. We'd ruin the take because we were laughing so hard.
Oh my God. I totally believe that.
So that part was really fortuitous.
You must have a couple of thoughts about remaking something that, Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor,
Well, Spencer Tracy played it straighter.
Yeah.
We did a more comedic version. Steve is just going to give you a whole different interpretation. So it was like a different movie. It was a different take on that movie.
Right.
With the same, I guess, basically storyline, but the whole character that we had with Steve was an overreactor.
Yes.
He overreacts to everything. And, he gets crazy,
Right.
about his daughter.
But he and Nina are the perfect balance. I just thought thematically, you guys it was like chef's kiss. It was you guys just nailed that theme throughout, and it felt organic and metaphorical, and it was just you nailed it. You just nailed it.
They nailed it too. They had really good chemistry.
Yeah.
Steve and Diane really liked each other.
Oh, that's great.
In fact, I think there was maybe hope of romance there at one time.
Is that right? Oh, wouldn't that have been awesome?
Yeah, but it worked for our movie.
It sure did. It sure did. But I want to back up a little bit, Charles, because it's it wasn't like you had a pitch. You were just we're going to make this better.
Right.
We don't like what's there. There were obviously other sort of people in the race.
I think we were confident.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy and I were very cocky and confident.
Uh-huh.
So we felt we knew how to do this and how to emphasize the father-daughter relationship, because that was seminal to the movie, That's why the movie was a hit.
Right.
In a lot of the previews, I remember they would say how they wish their father was like this.
In a way, for women, he was aspirational. He really was,
Right.
he had these crazy excessive traits, but always putting the daughter first.
Guys are cut off a lot, and this guy wasn't.
Yeah, totally. Charles, you get through the writing process. Is the studio very happy with what you guys turn in? Are they very much on board right away?
The thing is, when you have a movie star, they fall in line. I remember we had this scene, the head of the studio, they felt that we could cut a scene in the movie because it was, in their view, extraneous. And Nancy and I didn't want it, but you learn certain things. And we said, all right, we'll do it, but you have to go tell Steve that we're cutting it, because I'm not doing it.
And you put that on them.
I said, so you guys can go tell me. And they immediately started vacillating, and they wouldn't do it. They simply wouldn't tell him. I said, because he loves the scene, so I don't want to tell him, because I don't believe that we should cut it. So you guys go tell him. And they obviously wouldn't do it.
Yeah. No one wants to have that conversation. That's a really good point. For future reference. So, Charles, can you talk to me about the writing of the script a little bit? Some of those scenes are so, and you guys are really known for these hilarious but very grounded comedic moments. The moment where Steve finds the bank book and then falls off the thing and goes into the pool. Is that you and Nancy just like riffing back and forth? Like, what's the most absurd thing that could happen?
No, I think that's pretty much. I would think that scene when he goes through that's pretty much me. I would have done, And then I think when he falls in the pool and stuff, we just took it one step further. But that was pretty much me. And the dogs. I don't know. We just come up with this shit. I don't know how.
What was that process like for you two? Like, would you just like how would you guys handle?
Well,
we
had partners desks, so we had two desks on either side of each other. She would, we had typewriters in those days, I guess, right? Wow.
92. Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
Or she would write something, then hand it to me, and I'd rewrite it, or we'd pitch it. We were in a real groove. We were a little bit like musicians. And the other thing is that Nancy and I had the same taste, and the same things would make us laugh. And it's fortuitous when that happens because it's rare, and I think she writes as good at jokes and as one-liners as Neil Simon did, I think she's just a great writer. So
totally.
And we could crack each other up. That was the other thing that was good. Maybe she was more verbal and I was more cinematic, maybe, or visual. But I mean, Nancy and I never really, I don't think we ever really argued about stuff. If one of us didn't love something, we just did something else. We both had to agree on a scene or lines of dialogue or whatever. We kind of hardly ever argued, ever.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't turn the script in until you both were like 100%.
Yeah, we would do like 30 drafts. We were
okay. Wow.
Not literally. But
yeah, but you would like really, really dig in and do the work.
Endless drafts of scripts. And then of course, Steve came up with shit too, and he had this thing. He was such a gentleman. If we were doing a scene, he'd say, when you guys have it the way you like it, I have an idea. Let me try something.
Oh, I love that.
When you're done, when you have it the way you like it. And I would say invariably his idea was better than ours.
Can you remember like an instance where that was the case?
Yeah, like when he first meets the in-laws and he goes to their house and they pop some champagne or something, and he takes a sip before he's supposed to, and then spits it back in the champagne glass. That was Steve, totally. When you have what you like, I have an idea. And it's just brilliant. He said, when you're done, I have an idea. Try something. And we said, okay. And it was brilliant,
I would say the other thing about the movie is that like every performance is pitch perfect. It didn't feel like you had to edit around anything.
No,
like you guys had all the performance that you wanted and everything felt full of just like humor and heart and all those things. So I wonder, like when you're making a movie, when you and Nancy were making a movie, when it came to the direction, were you constantly talking with her and then?
No, we talk by the monitor. It was a collaboration for sure. I mean, I would talk to the actors because it gets confusing. But Steve would come over to the monitor and talk to Nancy all the time, or Diane. Yeah, it was very loose. We were a real team. It was very smooth, I have to say.
Good night, Mr. Banks.
Oh, you can call him George. Or Dad.
George will be fine. Okay. I'll say it next time I see you.
Drive carefully. And don't forget to fasten your condom.
Dad?
Seatbelt. I meant seatbelt.
This is a very reasonable price for a cake of this magnitude.
A cake, Franck, is made of flour and water. My first car didn't cost $1,200.
Welcome to the 90s, Mr. Pong.
When you were on set, like I love that champagne thing. Can you think of other times, particularly with Martin Short? I'm so curious about like how you were able to create like the funniest version of these scenes and these characters.
Well, you just let him go. You let Marty go, and you try to put no limits on what he can do. Because it doesn't matter. It's film. I'm sure there's brilliant stuff we didn't put in. We just never kind of restrained him. like when we first started with Marty, the studio, I remember David Hoberman called me, who was the head of the studio, or Katzenberger, one of those,
Sure.
and said, we can't understand him. We can't understand what he's saying. So they were panicked. This is so typical of the studio. We said, well, we'll do 2 or 3 versions. One where you understand him more, one where you don't,
Sure.
And again, naturally, everyone that you couldn't understand is in the movie.
So did you actually keep that up where you would do one where, okay.
We did it first, and then we kind of got into it, but they always, I don't know.
They get scared, right? They get scared.
Yeah. And they don't have the confidence in their own ability to discern if things are funny or not. And then, of course, when an audience starts laughing, they're happy. I remember when the first preview, I remember that Steve was sitting behind me and Nancy, and I remember he didn't really know what the movie was, I don't think. And he, in the middle of the movie, and this is so unlike Steve Martin, by the way, he patted me on the shoulder.
Oh, really?
And that kind of display of approval, or whatever you want to call it. He's such a reserved guy, and he really patted me hard, and it was pretty cool.
That's incredible.
That was cool. He was really happy.
I'm always curious about how the number one guy on the call sheet, particularly at that time of his career, interacts on set. Like some are...
He's great. He's great. And he appreciates the other actors. I mean, he's very supportive and appreciative, and cracks up at Marty and cracks up at Diane.
When Marty was on set, I've noticed that with some, when they're with their people.
Yeah. Well, he loves being on the set. He loves working, and he loves just going for it, And, like many times I would not cut. I just let him keep going. And God knows where he's going to go. He's a little like Robin Williams. Again, like musicians, they're riffing, and Marty just gets into a zone, and you know where he's going to go. And I don't think he knows where he's going to go, which is even more exciting.
Oh, so fun to bear witness to that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I would love to see the outtakes of, because I'm sure there was stuff you couldn't put in. I mean, there was just, there was no way to put it all in.
But he would go, like, I remember once there was a scene where Diane and Kim were in bed, and Marty was between them. And I remember he went...
Like in the chair, you mean?
No, in a bed. They were laying in bed. I don't know why they were in bed, but...
Maybe it was in the second one.
Maybe we were doing a rehearsal. I don't know what it was. But Marty went into a Katharine Hepburn thing. And Diane and Kim were choking with laughter because he becomes Katharine Hepburn, but like genius, And
oh my God.
I remember that was really amazing. Yeah.
So Kim said that this was a really big break for her.
Yeah.
And she mentioned the scene where she's supposed to break up with her fiance, and she could not muster the tears. It's in her bedroom, and she's on there, and she just couldn't get there. Do you remember that day?
I do, because Nancy said to me, she's got to be like Lucy crying here. It's
oh, interesting. Like Lucille Ball.
And Kim really had a hard time letting go until I think we said to her, this is like Lucy crying. You don't have to be, it's not Tennessee Williams. So she just went for it. The Lucy reference did it for her, because Lucy was a genius. And so that reference really helped her, I remember, because we were having a problem getting that. Yeah.
So another thing I read is that you and Nance would go on set and sort of rehearse the blocking yourselves, and then bring Steve and Diane in, and they would like to see you guys. So you guys would act out the scenes.
Yes.
How did you guys develop that?
I don't know. They loved that. I'd walk into the closet, get the tie, come back out, give it to Nancy, whatever it was. We blocked out the scenes, and they sat there and watched us. It's a weird thing to do.
So crazy.
the writer and director act out the scenes for the actors. And they loved it, though. It made it so much easier for them. And they did it better than we did, obviously. But I don't know where Nancy and I got the courage to start doing that, you know?
And the fact that they loved it. I mean, did you like run it by them, or how did that, do you even remember how that started?
Well, I would probably be trying to show him, well, here, just do it like this.
Yeah.
Do you want me to show you? And he said, yeah, just do it. I remember Sam Shepard said the same thing to me when we were doing Baby Boom, some scenes. He'd say, just act that out for me. Show me what you want me to do. And Sam, he didn't like to be directed in front of other people, Sam Shepard. He said, just do it for me. And he was a great guy. I
interviewed Phil Kaufman about The Right Stuff and getting Sam to play Yeager. And it was very much like two bulls in a ring. And like, you've got to seduce Sam. And, he's got a lot of his own ideas, but he and Chuck Yeager actually ended up like really, really falling in love. And Sam finally agreed to do it. He wasn't going to do it. But talk to me about the set and the house, and all of it just felt so curated. And that is sort of like what you guys were doing at that time. Everything was a decision, and like nothing was accidental, it felt like. But can you tell me about like your memories of like choosing that house? And the house was like the cornerstone of his character.
Right. Well, like the car he drove was grounded in kind of classic. Everything was classic, and we wanted it to be. Nancy and I always made an effort to not do stuff of the moment, so stuff that would not age poorly, like Billy Wilder told us, comedy is not like fine wine. It doesn't age well. So you have to be aware of that. Try to be timeless, not of the moment.
When it came to choosing and like set design and production design, again, were you guys like very much side by side and doing all those things? I mean, like even the opening shot is like so intricate and specific, and the wine glasses that are chosen. And
that's a
champagne bottles,
big oversized wine glass, that we had to shoot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. We wanted to set a tone of elegance and sophistication right from the start with the champagne.
And was that house, did you build all those rooms, or was that like a practical house?
Yeah, we built those rooms, at Radford Studios, And then the exteriors were two different locations. But we kind of just, I don't know. A lot of the decisions we made, we had a lot of photographs of what we liked. And, just the way Steve dresses with the chambray shirts and stuff. Everything we wanted to have be classic, We had a great costume designer, Susie Becker, did a great job. And I don't know.
Felt a little bit like magical, seamless.
It was effortless, yeah.
It felt like very, very organic and natural.
Yeah. Well, we were into the movie too. We were into the family father-daughter story. We had little Kieran Culkin, who was great.
Oh my God, so good.
So good. And George Newbern, we had just a really good cast.
So when you got into the edit, Charles, did it feel like it just kind of followed the beats of the script?
It was the best first cut we ever had.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah. It really worked. We didn't have to cut hardly anything. The movie worked,
And so did you show it to the studio very quickly and like kind of were like off to the races?
Yeah, they were very receptive. Then it previewed through the roof. So, they were thrilled.
I remember, I saw it at the 3rd Street Promenade and like whatever, I was in high school, and they would do those like previews. Like they would have people coming around being like, do you want to see a movie with XYZ that's similar to this and that? And I just remember it coming out the first weekend, and everyone my mom went to see it, and like she couldn't stop laughing. And so like she had to leave the theater because people were getting annoyed. And it was one of those movies that stuck with me because everyone seemed to love it. It like seemed to do that thing where like the whole family would come and everyone really, really loved it. Do you remember the night it came out? Like, do you remember that weekend? Were you like checking out the lines in the theaters and that kind of thing?
I remember they called us, maybe it was Saturday morning or Friday night, and tell us the movie they knew it was a hit already because it opened in New York or something. And Nancy and I weren't that tuned into that box office and shit like that. We didn't really. So, but when that phone call came, it was like, what? How would you know it's a hit? Well, it's in New York. It opened already, and that was really cool. That was good. Yeah, I mean, and then Steve called. Steve was thrilled. Actors want hits.
And did you guys pretty quickly commit to the second one? Like, did you go right into the?
No, I think we did. Didn't we do? I think we might have done a movie that we didn't love first, called I Love Trouble, which never make a movie.
Oh, the Nick Nolte, Julia Roberts.
Make a movie with any trouble in it. So then we thought, well, let's bounce back and make a sequel right away because we weren't happy with I Love Trouble.
Why do you think this movie is such a legacy movie?
I think it's timeless. It's a story that's not going to go anywhere, having babies, getting married, and the heartstrings that all that pulls at,
And I have to say, Charles, like there is a simplicity to the narrative that I so appreciate. It's like we're not trying to solve the world's problems. We're just talking about a father and a daughter and letting go and letting them grow up. And like it is ultimately a really joyous thing. And I was watching it last night and I was like, this is a delight. This is an absolute delight to watch. And you do not get that much anymore, And so I just have to tell you, like, I really, in rewatching it, was like so completely charmed and was like laughing out loud, even all these years later.
It holds up. It's like Private Benjamin holds up too.
I watched Private Benjamin 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Totally holds up. I mean, it's a little racy. I will say I was just like super impressed with like the opening sequence of like Albert Brooks getting her to go into the limo.
Yeah, we were out there a little bit.
I was like, they were so bold. I love it.
What were his last words? I'm coming. Yeah.
Well, Charles Shire, you're an absolute delight. Thank you for doing this. Was this fun at all? Was this like...
Yeah, it was good.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. I hope to see you in person soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Daniel.
Dad, I love you. I love you very much.
I love you too, sweetheart. Thanks for calling. And have a great honeymoon.
Oh, Bex, that Charles Shire, what a character. We could have just chatted for the next 3 hours. He was just like laying in bed, chilling. You cannot see this, but half of the episode was like with his forehead, like me in full frame and him in bed, me staring at his forehead. He was the best. He was the best.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a real Hollywood veteran. And he is the father of Hallie, our beloved director that we just worked with on Goodrich. And can we say like a little bit of an inspiration for the Michael Keaton character in Goodrich? So yes. It's just like, it's so crazy. Like that was the first conversation I'd really had with Charles, and just like seeing the charisma that I think is like so prevalent in so many of these guys, in Hollywood and in art and all these businesses, that it's like you can see how people are deeply charmed by them, because I was so charmed by him, even though like he was not following like the course of the typical narrative. I was just like, I'm here for it. Wherever you want to go, Charles, I'm going with you. I would say that like the thing that he mentioned at the top was, without me realizing it, is very much the reason I believe Father of the Bride is a legacy film. And I think it's the fact that Steve Martin, George Banks, is everyone's ideal father, in that he fully is so invested in his children's lives to the point where it like their happiness and success is the most important thing in his life, right? He's a very successful entrepreneur. He has this, business with the tennis shoes. He's got like this amazing house. He's got this beautiful car, but none of that is really relevant to the story.
Yes.
And it makes me weepy a little bit because I think for anyone who has a father, that really is like such a gift when you are like the joy of their lives and your success is their success. And we don't all have that, and I think Goodrich touches upon those themes a little bit and really resonated for me. So I think that's why that movie withstands the test of time. Did that resonate for you, Bex?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's like I think the reason why this movie is so good and does, I think, resonate with a lot of people is because they chose to not play it straight like the original. They chose to add the comedy in, and comedy shows more of humanity often than I think drama does. And so I think seeing the moments, like seeing how much Steve Martin truly cares about his daughter, but is also a little bit unsure of how to handle this particular situation. I think it's so relatable, right? There's always those fathers never want to let their little girls grow up, but they have to, and that's a beautiful part of life. And so even the moment that he mentioned, that was the Steve Martin improv where he just spits the champagne back into the
Totally. I love that. That was so great.
Hilarious.
What a Hollywood gem.
It's such a good moment, but it says so much, right? It's like he's so excited to be there and celebrate his daughter, but he's also like he doesn't know what to do in this situation. He doesn't handle himself. And it's just like a weird growing pains moment. And I think it's so beautiful and relatable. And it's very touching.
You're so right. It's like we're all on this journey of life, right? We're all like trying to find our way to happiness and success and all those things. And this movie like embodies that. It really is George's story. I mean, of course, it's like the daughter getting married and it's all about the wedding, and Frank and Martin Short is so genius and hilarious. And those like comic moments are so wonderful. But I would say that watching it, I was just like so touched by George's sort of feelings of being lost and not knowing the path forward when your daughter isn't going to go play basketball with you every night after dinner,
Right.
And I have to say, just to get personal here, I have a 17-year-old daughter and she's going to be leaving for college soon. And I'm like, what the fudge? I don't know what my life is going to be like without her constantly there. And it's so, in a way, that movie is as much for parents as it is for daughters. And so you end up having everyone in the whole family enjoying that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, guys. Well, we love you so much. Don't forget to press the follow button. That's very, very important. Go check out that merch. We've got kid hoodies now too. It's just blowing up. And don't forget to DM us. Tell us other movies you want us to explore. We're just having the best time. And we have such good episodes coming up. We're going to do an episode of Challengers. Just stay tuned.
And stay gold.
And stay gold.